Hello and welcome to our Friday webinar. We are back on with Lisa Bono. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi, how are
How are
you?
you doing? I feel like it's been a while. Let's see. It just seems that these webinars, we have them so frequently, but then when we don't see someone for like a week, it's like, where have you been? So,
Traveling and spending time with my family. So it's been a long year since I've seen them. So it was a nice time off. So
very nice. That's the way, yeah, that's what you hope to do with your time off, is something that's like, oh, that's pretty amazing. And today's topic is we were talking about the big move, right? So you've done that with your flock.
lots of times, yes.
So I'm just
Um,
curious. I was just going to ask if if anyone, our participants, want to raise their hand if they've ever like have done like a big move with their like in the last, let's say, like 5 years with their birds, like a big move. Like what do you constitute a big move? Like across the city or a state? Oh, shoot.
Depends on how well your birds travel. If they're fine with traveling, states away is absolutely fine. If you end up having ones that get car sick, then it's a little bit, more concerning for the owner and stressful for the owner. And then 1 hour away could be a long run, a long move.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay. Let's see. So did I make you a co-host yet? Because are you doing I did. Okay, good. Good,
Yes.
good, good. All right. So we have people logging in still. It's great to see everyone's where everyone's coming from. I love seeing where all the cities people log in from. It makes it so exciting. It's because we've got like this really nice online bird community, and you don't have to be in the same city, or you could just be from anywhere. So it's nice to see.
Exactly. And when I was away down in Florida, I actually got a chance to go to bird club meeting and see a lot of my bird club friends, and online friends. And it was funny because a lot of people did recognize me from doing these.
Oh, very nice. You
Yes.
should hang out with some bird people. Very, very cool. All
It was a
right.
lot of fun because I had a bird club and it was something we did a couple of times a month. We would get together, and now that there's nothing really around here, I go to Florida, I try to get to a meeting, and I just sit there and just have fun. So it's important for everybody to really try to get out there and do that.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And then just remind us again, who do we have with us today? Your flock behind you.
All right, so over here is Emma. She's trying to steal the Nutriberries out of Sammy's foraging. Sammy's in the middle, the one who just shook her head. And then we have Sterling over here. Sydney is busy screaming at the moment, and so he is not in the room, so this way you guys can hear me.
Okay,
So
okay. All right. Well, I'll let you take it over. You should be able to just present your PowerPoint and yeah, let's see what's involved with. I mean, moving can be a headache for just people, so I imagine it can be a little stressful for if you have pets with you. So.
all right, let me get this going. Some things around here so I could actually see what I'm doing. Give me for a second. So many things that pop up on here. Try to get them out of the way. Right. Thank you for everybody joining in. I miss being here with you, and I'm happy to see so many familiar people joining in. Today, we're going to talk about moving and actually applying behavior techniques to prepare your birds. Moving is stressful, regardless of how far you go and really what you're leaving. So this is the final picture of me in my store. And of course, I didn't even want to face the camera because, I was crying after being there for so long, building up such a great place for everybody to be. This was also part of my final move down to South Carolina from New Jersey. So it's stressful on us. We have a lot of things going on. And if it's stressful for us, and we are not acting ourselves, things are not going to be the same at home with our companions either. So these are actually all the houses that I've lived in. Now, in between, you'll see the little sketches of houses. Those are houses too, as well. So I've had the privilege now of living with birds for about 48 years. And I started at age 8 with my first parakeet. A lot of you guys know that. And I, evolved with my bird club, getting bigger birds, different birds. And when I was young, we moved a lot. And my parents divorced. We moved. We couldn't have dogs or cats. I was allergic, so my mom bought me my first parakeet. And so the first house you see there was really, we lived in an apartment first. We moved there shortly thereafter. That would really be considered my first move. Then once I got a little older, I married a military man, which ensured a lot of moves after that. Luckily, most of them were in New Jersey, but when he finally retired, we decided to get out of the state, and we moved south. So I've had actually 14 moves with my flock, not necessarily all the same birds, because again, this is throughout my life. But when I was younger, I didn't really put too much thought into it because I was young. What did I know? I was 8 years old. So as I got older, I started thinking a little bit more of what they need and how to prepare them and what I should really be doing to make sure that it's not stressful on them and make it easier on me. So we're going to talk a little bit, what does behavior have to do with a move? Okay. Our behavior will affect their behavior. Are we nervous, stressed, doing things out of character, forgetting routines? Now, a lot of people don't like the word routine because they think wake up 6, eat 7, read your newspaper 8, go for a walk 9. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a very loose routine. Our birds deserve to be able to live in a stress-free environment, knowing they're always going to get fed, knowing they're always going to come out, knowing they're always going to get their veggies and their fresh waters and have fun. So that's what I consider a routine. Loose routine. They know somewhere within that, 8 to 12, they're going to be under trees. They're not going to be in the cages all day. And even with my bird sitter, I try to get her into the routine so she knows what they expect to keep everything as smooth and, easy as possible. So think about it. What can happen when a gray is stressed? So I'd like to see, let me get down to the chat here. I'd like to see some responses to see if they are thinking what I'm thinking, even though you already saw it because I clicked too far. Okay. See, everybody, I got the wrong thing up. All right, so for some reason I'm not seeing any of that, but anybody who lives with a gray can know that right away they can, start plucking, screaming, and we really don't want to reinforce that type of behavior because it's harder to extinguish in the end. So what we're going to try to do is prevent that and make everything go a little easier. So let's discuss some things we could do prior. A lot of behavior people already know, it's called an antecedent, to keep them calm and safe during the whole process. So for the people that maybe are new or maybe have not looked into it, I would suggest you look into this a little bit more. This is used with children, with adults. It's used pretty much with a lot of our everyday things we do. We just don't put it in this context. So the ABCs of behavior are a framework that describes how environmental factors can influence behavior before and after they occur. So the antecedent is an event, action, or situation that happens before a behavior and may trigger it. Okay, so keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Behavior is an observable and measurable act that a bird does, such as chewing on their toenails, maybe pulling their feathers in real quick. You can tell something is different. And a consequence is an action, response, or an event from us that happens after the behavior from the bird. Y'all can come back, look through this again, and go over it at your leisure. What I wanted to highlight here is the applied behavior analysis requires constructing intervention strategies that define the antecedents and consequences that will result in an increase of positive skills and a decrease of problem behaviors. That's what we're talking about today. So, breaking down a move. There are a lot of things that go into a move, and it kind of, as you've done it so many times, it kind of starts to become second nature. I really wish I could say that I was that person that was still in my hometown. You know, my friends were in the same hometown and I didn't move on, but that was not life for me. So what we need to do is, when we're thinking about moving, there's a lot of things we have to take into mind. So you're going to have to list your house. Obviously, you got to find a new house. You have to show your house. You have to pack. You're going to be traveling in a vehicle. You should inquire about health certificates to travel. You're going to talk to your veterinarian about that. You're going to visit with your current veterinarian. It should say current, and find out who is in the area that may mesh with you to get a new veterinarian. There's going to be a lot of unfamiliar sights, noises, and a lot of scary new things around that we know is there because we probably, we put it there, our spouse put it there. And then when you carry the bird around in the room, all of a sudden everything's out of order, and they get kind of nervous. So then we have the stress from humans. Remember, the birds can see differently when we do. And when we're stressed or nervous or angry or having any kind of arguments or stuff like that, the capillaries in our face, we turn pink, and the birds can pick up on that. So we look a lot different. So with the stress, they're feeding off of that. They're seeing us differently. That affects them. Because we have so many other things going on, we might be preparing different foods, or maybe they're not getting their nightly stuff that they would every day. And then the routine is completely interrupted. So one of the first things you should do on this list when you're considering moving is you really have to make sure that you get them in a safe carrying case and smaller cages until they're settled in again. You can't expect just to put them in a case or a cage and let them sit there for a few days while you're traveling and them to be okay with it. This happens to be, as you know, my carrying cases that travel with us either in a car or the motorhome. And this is where they're locked in safe and secure with a seat belt so I can keep an eye on them. Oops, sorry. And then these are their little cages. This was actually, I think, 3 moves ago. This was the first transfer with the military we had. So these are now some of their sleep cages. Okay, that's how long I've had them. This was 2004, and they still look brand new. So what we had to do is, because their cages were bigger, because the military was moving, as my thought was, okay, we're going to take the birds into smaller cages. We're going to put the bigger cages on the moving truck, let them move it. I'll just worry about this. Luckily, it was still within state. It was only an hour and a half away. They were able to, bring the big cages. My guys are kind of used to them. But there was also a delay of getting them. So they were in there a few extra days than I would have liked, but they were fine. And for everybody who hasn't seen this or heard me talk before, I actually had a bunch of cockatiels as well. So pay attention down there to Bud, Thor, Puff, Chloe, Chris, because there's a little story about them. What you need to do is get them used to the rides in the car. You need to know how your bird's going to react in a vehicle. Make it fun, reinforce good behavior, maybe play some music and sing along and watch them. Nothing too loud, nothing too scary. Make sure everything you're seeing is good body behavior. They're relaxed. And you have to find out how it is with long distances. Your bird should never have a fear of going in a carrier and always going to the vet. So, I take my guys out quite a bit, and they're used to, being in the carriers. It's not a scary thing when they go anywhere, and I suggest people do this safely. You also find out from a longer car ride who travels well and who doesn't. Now, with one of our moves, I think it was this one. What happened was the birds were all in my car, and there's another picture in it later on in the presentation. And Emma was the one who I was concerned about getting car sick. I did not have Abigail yet. So what I found out with bringing Emma home is that she did good for about 45 minutes, and then she started to violently throw up. So I would have to pull over. I would take her out of her carrier. I would wipe her off because she would be coated with spit. I'd calm her down, put her in, and then after that, we'd get a good 25 minutes till the next episode. So everybody knew who was helping me move all these birds and their small cages, because obviously I couldn't get them all in my car. They all knew when I pulled over, everybody had to pull over. Now, if anybody knows anything about 95 or the Garden State Parkway, we had to pull over on there several times. You know, a bunch of cars just pulled over on the side of the road because little Emma was upset. After I got Abigail, she actually got sick worse. So I couldn't really travel unless I was right there with her so she could see me and calm down, because her getting car sick was very violent. So what you need to do is you need to reach out to your veterinarian sooner than later to find out if you need any kind of papers to go interstate. People who are moving out of country, of course, they know they have to go to the country. They have to find out there what the import and export and all that kind of stuff is. It's not that detailed here, but you still want to make, you still want to check and make sure that you're doing things properly, because different states here have different laws, and some, like New Jersey, are very strict. So you want to make sure that you're covered and they are covered. So these are some of my vets along the way of Dr. Brown, Dr. Wade, Dr. Pilney, and then over there on the left, you'll see Dr. Wire, who is at the University of Pennsylvania. And that was Miss Emma, and she's features in Maggie Wright's African Grey book. So what I did when I was getting ready to move, I talked to my vets. They suggested somebody for me to look into. I already knew the name. I had already seen her lecture several times. I was impressed with her. They said, that's probably where you want to go. So what I did is I took a push pin and put it on the map of where she's located. Then I made a circle with a pencil 100 miles away in any direction. And that's where we were going to go and look. You need to, if you have an older flock, or if you have a bird that has issues, you want to make sure you're relocating to somewhere that you're going to be able to drive to. I didn't want to go any more than 100 miles because I'm not getting any younger. And, I'm going to have to make this almost 2-hour trip. And I wanted to make sure it was something I could do on my own when I had to. So I urge you to please research before you decide to go to a certain area where your veterinarian is going to be, what they specialize in, and if it's something that your bird can, if they can help you with the bird. You want to make sure that when you get there, you also want to try to get in and meet them before you have an issue or an illness. You want to be an established patient before you have to become a patient. You have to figure out what it is you're looking for in a new home. All right, now you're having these creatures that, are in your care, and you're going in and you're looking at different houses and what is going to benefit you and also them and their health. So are you looking for big windows for natural sunlight? It's important to remember that glass and plastic filter out the beneficial UV rays, and that's why your bird will not get the benefits of natural sunlight in front of a window. And that came from Dr. Wade. She has a good article that is on her Buffalo Bird Nerd, I believe it is, on UV lighting. And so a lot of people say, yes, I got these great big windows. Yes, I have great big windows in my room here. But the glass is filtering out the beneficial UV rays. So keep that in mind. You want to know if the sun is facing north, south, east, or west. And that's going to come into play because you have sun up, sun down. You have natural vocalizations, dawn to dusk. So, you know, if you're in a room and that sun's coming up at 5 o'clock in the morning and your bird starts carrying on at 5 o'clock in the morning, you can't bang the bird. That's instinct. That's what they're going to do. So you want to keep that in mind. If there's a place that you're going to keep them, which way do you want the sun coming in or coming out? And if you find a house that you really like and it's facing, for instance, you know, east, you want to make sure that you're able to get something to maybe block out the sun for a little while so you can maybe wake up at 7 instead of 5:30. Room for a bird cage and stands and cages. When I say bird room, I mean something like I have. Obviously, you know, for their cages, their stands, a place that's in the middle of the house, not tucked alone in a back bedroom where they're by themselves. Birds are not solitary creatures. Okay, maybe some of the birds of prey are, but our parrots are not. So you want to make sure that you have somewhere that it can be a focal point with the family, interacting with everybody. And then if you are able, course, to have a little sleep room, maybe to keep them a little bit more quiet, away from the late night TVs and the loudness and the laughing. And the last thing, and I find this very important, and it was important for me when we were looking at houses, will the birds be in public view? Okay. Bird thefts are on the rise. We see it all the time. It's best to deter prowling eyes right off the bat. Again, remember those ABCs, antecedent. We're trying to, you know, prevent this. So we're going to set it up for prevention. One of my houses that we moved into, and it was quick. We had to move. Our house sold. We didn't really have a chance. We were being transferred. Guys were being sent to Iraq. We had to get to a place quickly. We found a house. And I did not like that house once we were in, because people would cut through our house or our yard all the time. And I would find them outside the bird room window looking in, or outside my bedroom looking in. So when we moved again, I didn't want to be on one story. I didn't want the birds to be where somebody can physically look in the room. We moved to another house. I had a 2-story house. The birds had a nice room with great big windows, but it was in the front of the house. Now, chances are somebody walking on the road or passing on the road, when they're going to look up, they're only going to see the ceiling. But once Abby got moved up into the room, she was in front of the window. And I felt a little uncomfortable with that. And I would always rush home and pull those blinds so nobody could see what was going on. It was extremely important. When we came down here, my husband wanted a ranch. I wanted something where no one is going to see my birds. And that's just the way I want to keep it. You know, maybe a few of my neighbors know where I am and what I have, but that's about it. So luckily we were able to build on. You saw the webinar, or you can go back and look at the webinar, building on a bird room. This was really the perfect setup for me, because we were able to add on. It's a second story. From the back of the house, so no one can see in, and there's a couple windows that I do pull blinds down on at night, just to kind of distract, you know, if anybody is walking by, which, you know, no one really does. But you have to be careful with what's going on out there. So when looking at a house, keep in mind what renovations will need to be done. Are there big projects the birds should not be around? Are you aware of the types of paints used in the past? Is there asbestos lurking behind the walls? What kind of piping do you have? Is it old piping? Is there an issue with your water? And more importantly, have you tested for radon? Now, the reason I say that, I told you in the beginning when we were looking at my little guys, you know, Chloe, Bud, Thor, Chris, and Puff. What happened was we had moved again to this house very quickly, same one where people were looking in my windows. And each winter, I got very sick to the point where I couldn't even get out of bed. I ended up in the hospital every year. Also, what happened is my cockatiels started dying off. Now, yes, they were at advanced age. They were in their 20s. That's what I was, you know, because I've had them since they were little, had them since they were babies. I knew their ages. So I figured it was really, you know, the life thing going on. And I was sick in bed myself or in a hospital. So there wasn't really a lot I can do. What ended up happening was I ended up in the hospital. We were being transferred again. We had to list our house. We had somebody come in and they did the whole gamut of tests. Come to find out, we had very unacceptable radon levels in our house to the point where if we didn't remedy it, it was going to be condemned. So we also had a test when we moved in there, because if you're living in a rocky area, there's fault lines, you know, the gases come up. And we had it tested prior to us moving in, and a test came back fine. But also going in and looking for, you know, looking while we were down there, the last owner also had the windows open in the basement where the radon test was. I didn't know any difference. You know, I'm still young. It's, you know, I thought maybe he was just trying to get fresh air on a nice day. All of my cockatiels, except for one, passed away in that house. So I urge you, it's a very cheap test in regards to everything. When I moved to my next house after finding that out, even though it was in sand by the beach, I still had a radon test. They all thought I was crazy. I had one in this house too, but everybody thought I was crazy because they're like, we don't have radon down here. I wanted to be 100% sure there was nothing in there that was going to end me and, you know, me in the hospital or kill any of my birds. So if you need to get work done, I suggest you try to get as much done as possible before moving in. If you're buying a new house or you have a couple days, you know, whether you're in a rental or whether you're in another house and you're able to move, fortunately, we were able to purchase this house down here. We had somebody in here staying in here and renting from us until we were able to sell in New Jersey and actually move here. When we told her we were coming, our renter got out. We were able to have the floors done. We were able to have all the walls painted. I picked out my specific paints that I wanted to make sure we weren't going to have VOCs. And I had somebody come in and actually clean for me with some heavy duty chemicals and run all the appliances since they were going to be new. I was really hoping when I got here, and I also had my air purifiers down here. I was really hoping when I got here that everything would be fine. And the first thing is I opened the door and I smelled paint. And they had finished painting several days before. What had happened is they didn't get the brand paint that I said I wanted. They went to the closest place and had the paint matched. So make sure you're aware of what they're using and keep an eye on it. Make sure they're doing what you're asking them to do. When you're listing and showing your house, you should inform your agent that you have birds in the house. Make sure you place signs, not to stick fingers in cages, because for some strange reason, that's what people want to do. It's like, oh, pretty birdie, let me stick my finger in the cage. Keep kids away. In my situation, my birds have not been around young, high energy children. So in the event they do come to my house, I try to keep them farther away and introduce them slowly. But if you're showing a house, you know, these people are in and out really quick. They're looking at something, the kid's running through the house and the kids might run into the room. Make sure that they know you want to keep the kids away. And make sure there are no cages in any pictures that will be listed on the internet. I noticed a lot of that when we were looking down here online. There are a lot of pictures of homes And I specifically noted several African grays in the pictures, and I was thinking that's not a good idea. If you have cameras, watch them on your phones. I didn't have that option when I was leaving New Jersey, but we were lucky enough to have an RV. So a lot of times what I did is I would put my birds in the carriers and we would go sit in the RV. If we got super last minute showings, my husband and I would go in the RV and we would sit there, and you know, we had the signs up, you know, we told them, you know, keep the kids away, all that kind of stuff. And as soon as they were out of the house, I immediately went back in to check things. This is on my door here for when I have guests here. It's just a little example of what you can do. I put this on the door here and I close their French doors. So this way, when people are here, again, I don't want people sticking their fingers in. So we put this little sign on there. I see a lot of people go to grab the door handle, see the sign, and then they just back off. So it works. These are, and I apologize for the really bad pictures. I didn't want to show you the actual video of my last house. Great video, but it was too long. So some of these pictures, the ones that are kind of like wavy and blurry, they're going to be pictures of the video I took yesterday. So this was the actual pictures that were in the video and in the listing online so people could see. You can see there's nothing there except for, if you look on the little shelf here, there's a little betta fish here. That was Abigail's friend. She had a betta fish. So that's what you saw in the pictures. In reality, that's what it looked like. Here's the little betta fish right here behind this candle. Fake candle, never lit, automatic. But that's how it looked. So here we go. This is my upstairs. Back here, if you can see my pointer beyond the railing, pink walls, see the light right there? That is the bird room. They all came out. They're all put into another room. That's what it looked like normally. There's their light. So again, that's what was put in the listing. This is my bedroom. Back here, you can see where the little African gray is up on that door. Door was closed because the cages were in there. I didn't want them in any pictures whatsoever. Here was the listing. Here was a picture for the third bedroom. You could see the windows that were facing the main road, what I talked about. But that was their room. That's what it normally looked like. So be aware of what you're putting online. That's the last thing you want, is somebody to be surfing and deciding, you know, they're going to hit a house up. You know, you've heard stories of it and they see something like that, and yeah, that's an easy, quick pick. So now the listing is pending sale. I did not love that pending sale picture because that was my house that I loved and did not want to leave. You're getting ready for the move. Everything is going to be out of place. Okay. So the picture to the left, that is the hallway. I'd be standing by the bird room door because there's that railing again. So that's what the birds would have seen if they were standing, if they were in their room. I mean, and we'd have to walk past that. That's not normal. They don't know what that is. You know, they were not happy with that. So that was all the stuff out of the attic. What we did is we put it in a spare bedroom, so this way I could close the door and they didn't see it. And then you'll see in the picture on the right, that was some of my favored African gray stuff I was bringing home with the store. Even though it was little pictures or whatever of them, they still didn't like them. Those had to move. So this is where everything ended up, okay? This is a spare bedroom, close the door, and you want to keep everything that's packed out of view. And another thing I want to say is you want to clearly mark boxes. I could tell you I am here for over 5 years and I'm still missing a box of my African gray stuff. But what you want to make sure you do, and we'll talk about it, is you'll see back here on the left side picture, you'll see some boxes that are on top of this little chest, and it says RV, okay? That was all coming with us. I was not entrusting any movers or anybody else to take with them. That was the stuff I needed on my person. So this is my basement. I have to say, at the same time this was all going on, I was also closing the store and moving everything out of there. My mother had just had surgery and my husband just had surgery. So I was doing this all pretty much on my own. Another thing you want to do is check for pet-friendly hotels before you get on the road. This was a site I went to last night. I've referenced it a few times for people. They seem to have a lot of different hotels in different states that you are welcome to come in. What you want to make sure is when you call them, you want to find out what they're cleaning with, if they're spraying anything in the room. Just don't get in a car and take off and drive willy-nilly and come across a hotel and go in. Try to plan it a little better if you have to stay over. And then when the day finally comes, this is looking out the bird room window. There's my RV. This is the big old truck gonna cart us all away. So you can see in the picture on the right, those are some of the birds that were getting ready to move. They're used to the carriers, they're used to the cage, all the scary things are out. They really couldn't see the truck, but they could hear it. So I want to know, can you spot any signs of stress on any of the birds? And again, I wish I could see the chat. See if I can do that again. Okay, now I'm seeing some in the chat. They can stress when, okay, good. So do you see any signs signs of stress in that picture? Okay, open wings, I see. There we go. So we have Sammy right there. She's leaned over. She's hunched over. Her wings are out. It's an observable behavior that she is presenting to me to show me she's nervous. Now, nervous is a label, but I'm using that label so everybody understands what we're talking about. But you can see her behavior. Emma, the cage next to her on the right, obviously doesn't care. Neither do the other guys. And Sydney and Ollie, who are in the picture, they are absolutely just fine. Sam was probably a little bit out of sorts because it wasn't that long ago that she came to me, and she had a little bit of a traumatic past. Her owner passed away, my friend, and then she stayed in an animal hospital for a while until I could go get her. She was treated very well, but she doesn't know what's going on. And I'm sure that played into some of her behavior because she didn't know. So here are the other guys here. You can see there was no absolutely any signs of issue. They're playing with toys, they're having fun. And then you see on the right side, that is actually all their cages that we were taking with us because the last move, the movers were delayed, and I wasn't going to have that again, especially moving a couple states away. So we have the RV, and then we also have an enclosed trailer. So all the birds, all the important stuff came in the RV with us, and all their cages and their tree stands were able to fit in the enclosed trailer. And we were all able to go at the same time. That's why I left their toys in them. I threw a sheet over it to keep the cages clean, and they were with us 100% of the time. As I say, make sure all the important things are on your person. Expect things to get lost. You don't want anything that's important to get lost. Again, 5 years, I'm still looking for stuff upstairs in my attic. So you can see I took their sleep cages. They were on the couch. I was able to sit there to make sure that they were safe, and I was right next to Abby to make sure she was calm. My guys have less of an issue being in the RV than they do in the car, perhaps because it's bigger. A lot of things aren't zooming around, even though I try to keep them, covered, and they don't see a lot of that, but for some reason they did better in the RV than in a car. What you want to make sure you're taking with you is obviously their food and a lot of it, water and a lot of it. You want extra. You never want to be low on anything. Too much is better than not enough. their favorite toys to try to comfort them. Maybe little stands, they have little tabletop stands you can use, and that does a lot better than them not having anything at all. Obviously, any kind of jewelry and important paperwork, including health certificates, leg band information, pictures of your birds and any distinguishing marks they may have. God forbid you're in an accident. You need to make sure that they're all taken care of. You want to make sure that you can prove that they're yours, and you want to make sure that they've been checked and they're healthy, and double cross it with pictures. Now, this was a picture I took with all of my grays in my car. This was 3 moves ago. This is the one where we all had to stop along the parkway, because Emma was getting sick. You could see I have her cage covered. She was right in the front with me, so I could see, so I can at least try to stick my fingers in there and calm her down. You have Sydney and you have Sterling in the background. Again, I did not have Abby at that point, or Sam. And you could see in the little carry in the middle, I tilted that a little bit. That was Otis. He was my Timneh, and he was a little old man, and he was quite ill. He had a series of strokes, so he couldn't really hold on too well. And I only tipped it up for a second to take a picture to show that everybody was with me. My family was with me. And then all of a sudden, you're at your destination. Okay? What you need to do is, when you get there, you need to get them settled in first. Everything else can wait. That was the first thing I did when I opened a door and I smelled the paint. I took every single air purifier I had down here, which was quite a few of them. I put them in a room that was not painted. We opened the windows and I was able to keep them in there. I had 1 or 2 air purifiers outside the door to try to catch it. I had something under the door to block any fumes that might be coming in. I settled them in, and actually I was very sick that day. And all I did is, after I got them settled in, I laid down on one of the vents to try to keep warm, and settled them in first. So what we did, this was with the room when we first moved in. It was a very small room. It was what we had to work with. You could see their cages were taken apart. I also took those cabinets with me, because that's where I kept their food bowls. That's where I kept the paper towels. That's where I kept all their food. So those came in the RV with me. And this was after I finally got them settled in. Later, shortly thereafter, I hung their lights, tried to make everything as normal as I could. This is how we lived before we had the bird room. That's my mother and my husband. We tried to settle down to a routine as quickly as we could to make things normal for them. The girls all had to share a tree. It was very hard for me to be able to get the trees out of the dining room because all my stuff was in storage. And so the girls shared, and there you have Emma, Abby in the middle, and then Sam on the right. We celebrated birthdays. We did everything we normally would to try to keep the routine. Okay. Now I'm also throwing this in here because a lot of people now are going full-time into an RV. They're getting rid of their houses. There's Facebook groups. Everybody's traveling with their birds. So you can use, the information I just gave you for the same exact thing. These are our RVs over the years. My birds have been in all of them except for this brown one. What you need to do is, if you're looking at something like this as a possible living spot for you and your birds, what I urge you to do is make sure that you have an RV technician go over the entire coach to make sure there are no leaks. A lot of these things harbor mold. You don't want to, come in contact with anything like that and cause aspergillosis or breathing problems. So make sure you do your due diligence and make sure that the rig you're going into is going to be safe. We did the same thing. Bringing the birds in there little by little before before it was even moving, to make sure they got rid of, used to it. I can tell you, this is my first little RV. The brave one you're going to see out all the time is going to be Abigail. Everybody else wanted to stay in their carriers. Nobody knew what was going on. So Abigail is the brave one you see out all the time. So once this was our second RV, the one we came down here in. And again, once Abby was out, everybody else started to get a little bit more comfortable with things. This is where they were situated in the RV, so they were able to see, but they were all together. And they got used to it. Again, their little cages. Here you go, Abby being the brave one again, before anybody else goes in. So again, use the same techniques you need to if you're going to be moving into an RV, little by little, you know, make sure that they're in a safe spot. They're not going to be bounced around when they're moving. Maybe the cage is on the bed in a little carrying case attached to the, you know, one of the chair, the sofa or something, or the chairs that are in there. And again, keep it as normal as possible. Here's my husband and Sterling sitting outside under the awning, enjoying the day. And that is it. Hopefully we'll have some time for some questions, and hopefully you enjoyed it. And I do have one question real quick that somebody had sent me and asked me to go over in this webinar. And because it wasn't the topic we were talking on, she wanted to know about, you know, the heat waves and keeping your birds hydrated. Her bird pants a lot in heat but won't drink, so she missed them to cool them down, and she hopes that's a good plan. That is an excellent plan. You want to make sure they have several different options for water. Okay, one option, say a water bottle, is not going to be it. Make sure they have the bowl in there. Maybe put a bath in there. You can mist them down if you have to. Those are all good things you want to try if you can. You know, you might be having issues with the air conditioner. You want to make sure that the environment's going to be a little cooler. If you're going to put a fan on, just make sure it's not pointed at the bird. That will move some of the air around in there and might also help. So I hope that was an answer, and there you go.
Okay, let's see if you brought up the radon. That was an interesting yeah, you can do those tests where you put I think you order them, I think they're free even and leave them in your house for a bit. But yeah, people don't think about doing radon tests too much. So
I learned a very hard lesson, and I was very sick, and when I got sick, I was pretty much in bed all winter because I couldn't breathe, and I have lung issues to begin with. So to be in that environment and always being in a hospital, nobody knew what's going on. They weren't short stays. And then I would come home to one of my birds being on the ground. It was a very hard lesson. And I don't want anybody else to have to go through that.
okay, yeah, no, there's tests available, so yeah, take advantage of those. It's kind of like we have carbon monoxide detectors and all that stuff, so
Yes.
it's another test to do. So Lisa, just what was do you know what the total mileage, total miles that you've traveled with your birds? Do you have any estimates? Are we talking?
No, I would say, well, I went from middle South Jersey to here, and I think that it's about 700 miles, and most of the other ones were all within state. Maybe 50, 60 miles at a time, maybe 3 miles, depending on where we're moving. So once I realized, I remember being young, and my mother had one of those old Volkswagen buses kind of thing, like a station wagon. And I remember us moving, and I had made a cage for my parakeets because I had several of them. And it was a box. And back then, it was some sort of, not chicken wire, but some sort of mesh that we put around. The only way we could move it, and me being maybe 9, 10 years old, we slowly tipped it on the side and we put it in the back of the station wagon. And that's how they moved. They were fine. But I wouldn't try that with one of these guys. They'd be naked before we got there.
Okay. We have a question for you from Frank. Do you know if there are any medications to prevent car sickness in birds? Anything that helps alleviate
Yes.
that?
Yeah, that's something you really want to discuss with your individual vet, and which I did. What we decided to do for me and for Emma, because she had a very, healthy record. She was not sick. They looked at her. What they suggested is I give her some ginger. So I went to the store, I got fresh ginger root. I washed it off, I cut it up, and I gave Emma, who will eat anything, a piece of it. And she grabbed it in her paw or her foot, and she took a bite and she spit it out and dropped it at the same time and looked at me like I was going to kill her. I was desperate, didn't know what to do. So I decided, all right, you're not going to eat it. There's no way I'm going to get you to eat it. So I took some of that. It was probably only about an inch piece of the ginger root. And I think I put something like, I'm going to say it was like probably 4 cups of water because I was doing it very carefully. And I boiled some water with the ginger root in it. And then what I did was I substituted her water that prior night, gave her the ginger water. She was able to eat at night, but in the morning, I withheld her food so there'd be less in her stomach. And she had her ginger water with her, so she can do that. And it was the first time ever she didn't throw up. So if you're going to do something like that, I don't want you to go off of my recommendation. I want you to talk to your vet and make sure that it's something that they're going to suggest as well.
Okay. So, talk to your vet about that. And again, what are the subtle and the not so subtle signs that your bird might have car sickness or motion sickness?
Emma will actually start to regurgitate real quick. Her head will start bobbing. She'll actually hold on really tight to the perch and she'll start going like this on the perch, like she's gonna fall over. Abby almost instantaneously would start bobbing her head, and then all this clear spit, it was like bubbly spit. And if they had any food in them, yes, that would come out too, but she would shake her head and it would be all over her head, all over the carrier, all over everything. So it was obvious and it wasn't pretty, and I know it was very stressful for them.
Okay. And then, do you have a special road diet for your birds?
A what?
Like a road diet, like a diet when you're on the road. Like when we pack up for a road trip, we pack a bunch of snacks and my kids. So do you have like a go-to like road diet for your flock or?
Actually, they may get a couple more, maybe nuts, than they would usually at home, but I try to keep everything the same. If I'm giving them mash at night, they're still getting their mash at night. They're coming out on the table, they're still doing it. I have more of an area that I have to clean because obviously it's a smaller confined RV area. So I might have it all over my cabinets. But I try to keep it as normal as possible for them.
Okay. And then a question about, so since you've moved with so many different types of birds, do you notice that some species are more prone to motion sickness than others? Or
I've only had 2 birds ever get car sick, and they were both female African greys.
okay.
And I've lived with a lot of birds, from your parakeets and canaries, your Amazons, your kikes. Amazons seem to really like to travel. Compared to these guys are probably a little bit nervous and wondering what's going on to begin with. Wow.
Yeah, I think the Amazons are hoping you'll hit a drive-through and then you'll like.
Exactly.
All right. Okay, so I got some announcements made. That was an awesome presentation, and I hope if anyone is up for a big move, this is very helpful for you if you're moving and coming up or in the near future. Okay, so let's see. We will be on next Friday with Dr. Tully for another episode of Ask the Vet. And then also, do not forget, September 4th to the 7th is going to be the AFA conference in Costa Mesa, California, in my neck of the woods. And Dr. Lamb and I will both be there together on September 7th. There's the free family day that Lafeber will be sponsoring. That'll be happening at AFA as well. And let's see here. People are saying thank you. Your presentations are always so, you put a lot of heart and soul into them, and I know that people really appreciate it. So thanks again, Lisa, for once again putting together something nice and easy to follow and if, you know, it makes it easier. So when you want to if you want to rewind and rewatch the webinar, they got the fabulous PowerPoints that you do. So thank you. And I have to share. Well, so I'm gonna announce the giveaway winner. But I also want to show you guys. Lafeber was recently at the Super Zoo in Las Vegas. It's like a convention, a huge convention with all the new and exciting pet products coming out and stuff. And Lafeber won. They won first place for their new booster berries, the new product in the new product showcase category. And then so booster berries, that's for like the chickens and stuff in your life. A new flavor of NutriBerries coming out, and it's perfect for the fall. It's the soon to be released pumpkin spice NutriBerries. That won second place. Yeah, and I mean, I'm sorry, but how cool would that be? You could have your pumpkin spice latte and your bird could have its pumpkin spice NutriBerry. Oh, there we go. Look, Lisa's got, that's what it looks like. So, all right.
My guys love them. Absolutely love them.
Oh my gosh, do they smell like, because the strawberry NutriBerries, which by the way, today's winner, Claudia Lamp, you are going to get a bag of strawberry NutriBerries as well as another product of your bird's choice. So congratulations, Claudia. Do they smell like pumpkin spice? Like how?
They do. They smell like spice when you open it up. And I can tell you, I give them several different varieties and they all go for this one. So I'm going to need like, you know, a couple cases when when they come up available.
That's awesome. Okay. Let me do a real quick screen share. This is from the winning. This is a couple of photos. This is the Lafeber. So these are, you know, these are the people that put their heart and soul into the Lafeber diets too. This is so from left to right, we've got Deb, Marty, Shauna, Lorraine. She's from the UK. She's the UK rep, and then Nadine. So Nadine Lafeber, and this is them with the booth display. You got the booster berries there, that won first place in the new product category, and then you got the pumpkin spice NutriBerries. Those just look so good. And then there's Marty and hold on a second. Let me see if I can show you this photo. But this is them celebrate. Oh wait, I can't grab the photo. Here, I got it. Okay, you guys see that? This says that this is them with the awards. Nadine and Marty celebrating the much deserved award. I mean, a lot of thought goes into these recipes that are healthy and ones that birds will love. So there we go. I hope you guys. All right, I can't wait to. I want to smell those new pumpkin spice NutriBerries. That's great. You got. Yeah, there we go. Just falls right around the corner. So just in time. All right, guys. Just want to thanks again for joining us on this another Friday webinar, and we'll see you next time. And hopefully maybe if you can come out to California first week in September, join us at AFA. All right, guys. Thanks again, Lisa. Till next time, all the best to you and your flock, and stay safe. Bye, guys.